Hello everyone. Today again I am here to solve your doubts about a wonderful poem that is How to Tell Wild Animals by Carolyn Wells. And let's start the central idea first of all. So basically ये जो पोएम है इसमें बहुत ही ज़्यादा ह्यूमर और एक्सैजरेशन का यूज़ किया है. स्टूडेंट्स एक्सैजरेशन के लिए कौन सा लिटरेरी डिवाइस होता है ये आप मुझे बताइएगा कमेंट करके. एक्सैजरेशन जब हम शो करते हैं ये क्वेश्चन एग्जाम में पूछा जा सकता है आपसे कि ह्यूमर एंड एक्सैजरेशन के लिए विच लिटरेरी डिवाइस. ओके, so this poem's key message is about the use of humor and exaggeration to describe what? To describe wild animals in a very funny and entertaining way, amusing way. Instead of giving a serious advice, instead of talking on a very serious note, Carolyn Wells is giving advice on identifying the dangerous animals and presents their way in a very humorous and entertaining way. So, this playful approach, note it down, this is a good word, playful approach, makes the poem amusing as well as the highlighting the power and dangers of these animals. On one hand, पोएट आपको सभी वाइल्ड एनिमल्स की जो कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं वो बता रहा है और दूसरी तरफ ऑन द अदर हैंड ही इज़ मेकिंग यू अवेयर दैट यू शुड नॉट बिकम or you should not fall a prey to these dangerous animals. So the poet says that if you visit a forest in Asia and you see a large yellowish brown animal approaching it, so it might be a lion. She humorously adds that you will be sure it is a lion if it roars loudly just before you. So this is an exaggerated and funny way of showing that a lion is a strong and dangerous creature. And the humor comes from the fact that recognizing it would not be useful if it is already about to harm you. So before it you should recognize the animal and you should stay away. The next is the poet is describing the Bengal tiger. Bengal tiger has very majestic animals with black stripes on a yellow coat. Peppered. Peppered is a perfect word for Bengal tiger. And so poet describes the Bengal tiger, and this is another example of exaggeration. Instead of giving a very practical advice, the poet makes the situation amusing by suggesting that the only way to identify the tiger is during an attack. So this highlights again the tiger's fierce nature. जो पोएट है टाइगर की फियर्स नेचर को बहुत ही ह्यूमरस वे में बहुत ही प्लेफुल अप्रोच के साथ बता रहा है. नेक्स्ट इज द नेक्स्ट animal that poet is describing is a leopard. A leopard as an animal covered in spots, yes, that is the peppered appearance, and that jumps suddenly onto its prey. Leaps, leopard. And she says that even if the victim cries out in pain, the leopard will keep jumping again and again. And the poet humorously emphasizes the leopard's speed and aggressive nature. So, the idea of identifying the animal while it is attacking makes the situation sound funny, and even though it is actually dangerous. So, the repetition of jumping action adds to the playful exaggeration here. The next animal that the poet has described is a bear. The poet describes the bear as an animal that holds on onto its prey very tightly, and that's why, in a very humorous way, she has described this a bear hug because it will give you another tight squeeze to make it clear. In reality, a bear's grip is extremely powerful and can be deadly. But the poet plays with this idea by comparing it to a friendly hug, so that creating an amusing contrast between affection as well as danger. So this is wonderfully described. The next one animal in the series the poet has described is crocodile and hyena. The poet describes how to differentiate between crocodile and hyena. Hyena always look like as if they are smiling, while crocodile appears to cry as they hunt. That's why it is called crocodile tears. So this stanza plays with the common expression hyena do not actually smile because they are happy, and crocodiles do not cry out of sadness. So the poet humorously points out that appearances can be misleading. Appearances mislead हो सकती हैं and that's what looks friendly or sorrowful may actually be dangerous. हाइना की स्माइल एंड क्रोकोडाइल के टीयर्स दोनों ही डिसेप्टिव हो सकते हैं बिकॉज सो द पोएट इज मेकिंग यू अवेयर and again he is warning you that don't fall a prey to these dangerous animals. And the last animal that the poet has described is a chameleon. And chameleon is a small lizard like creature with no ears or wings. And she humorously suggests that if you see nothing on a tree, and the term has also been given here, camouflage, this term, if you see nothing on the tree, it must be chameleon because it binds so well with its surroundings. This stanza highlights the chameleon's ability to camouflage, and the poet makes this fact amusing by suggesting that its invisibility is the only way to confirm its presence. In a very, again, in a very humorous way. Again, this is the somewhere this is the irony also. Through humor, through irony, the poet makes us appreciate both the beauty as well as unpredictability of wild animals. Unpredictable. These animals are actually unpredictable. So the poet is telling not to believe on the appearance. Appearances can be deceptive, and stay away having too close contact with these wild animals. So this was the poem. Now let's talk about some of the literary devices of the poem. So the very first is yes, and that is वीडियो के बिगिनिंग में मैंने आपसे पूछा था कि इसमें कौन सी लिटरेरी डिवाइस है जो एक्सैजरेशन के लिए यूज़ होती है एंड यस द लिटरेरी डिवाइस इज हाइपरबली HYPERBOLE हाइपरबली जब हम किसी चीज़ को बहुत ज़्यादा एक्सैजरेटेड वे में बोलते हैं फॉर एग्जांपल आई हैव टोल्ड यू 1000 टाइम्स नॉट टू डू दिस एक्चुअली वी आर नॉट टेलिंग एनी 1000 टाइम्स बट दिस इज़ अ वे टू एक्सैजरेट किसी चीज़ को बढ़ा चढ़ा कर बोलना और उसके लिए जो लिटरेरी डिवाइस यहाँ पर यूज़ हुआ है दैट इज़ हाइपरबली एक्सैजरेशन राइट सो फ्रेंड्स आपको ये वीडियो पसंद आया होगा इसका एक्सप्लेनेशन अगर आपको अच्छा लगा ऐसे ही और वीडियोस के लिए उनके सेंट्रल आइडियाज़ के लिए अपनी अच्छी और बेटर प्रिपरेशन के लिए वीडियो को लाइक कर दीजिए चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दीजिए सो दैट again and again I can come and I can give you more and more knowledgeable videos. Thank you so much for listening. Subscribe, like, share. Bye bye.